This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Now, prepare yourselves for a Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels special edition. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Scoundrels, and welcome to the Scoundrels Special Edition. I'm Dennis, and with me are my friends and co-hosts Jay Krebs and Darth Taxus. Good evening, guys.
Good evening. How are we doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, overall, I'd say we're doing all right, but if you can probably tell from my voice and maybe a little bit from Jay, so we're all kind of under the weather here. So
yeah,
I'm going to ask everyone to indulge us a little bit as we are going to try and hit mute buttons when we need to cough and things like that, but we're not going to try and work Taxus too hard with the editing of this one, but this is, we've all felt better, but we wanted to get this review out and get that to you guys. So here we go. On this episode, we are discussing the latest episode of Resistance, Secrets and Holograms. It is time to hit that spoiler, Taxus, because this is a full spoiler discussion. If you are still with us, you are listening at your own peril. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into the summary. This episode begins with Torra Doza lamenting her boredom in her room in the high tower on Colossus Station. She then confronts her father about her boredom and what is going on with the First Order. With the First Order about to arrive, Captain Doza confines Torra to her room, where she doesn't really want to be. So we got more of Torra in this episode than we have in any previous, I think in all previous episodes combined.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without getting too much into the details that come up later in this episode, what do you guys kind of think of her?
Well, my first impression of her was kind of like the Rapunzel in the tower kind of thing, and especially in this episode. And I did think that it was interesting. I mean, I know especially with kids' clothes, you kind of identify the person by their outfit and it kind of never changes. But I couldn't help thinking, girl, you're pent up in your room. You really don't need to wear your flight suit. Don't you have something else in your closet? But I thought she was really cute. And I of course, I nitpick on the styles and the clothes and stuff like that. But her hair was a little bit Leia and a little bit Minnie Mouse. So yeah, I kind of picked up on her hairstyle a little bit though too. But
it's funny.
Yeah, she's kind of a fun character. She's very feisty.
It's funny you said that because in the beginning, I thought I was actually seeing a transitional commercial for Disney.
Oh, the one that like jumps around.
Well, it's like the Starship. It's like the spaceship, and it kind of looks like low-res graphics and stuff. Sort of like a throwback. And then I saw her head with the what do you call those, Jay? The things?
The buns.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was like,
mini buns.
Yeah. So at first I thought I was like, fast forward. Oh wait, that's the actual show. Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah, so yeah, I think I like it. I like having this much Torra. And, I think, looking forward to seeing more of her. I think she's bored. She's looking for adventure, looking for a buddy, she's kind of, she's kind of hands off, you know what I mean? She's the big guy's daughter. So it's kind of hard to get to know people and get to be friends with them when you're like that.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I'd say she's very energetic. If you haven't had a chance to see the Star Wars show for this week, the actress, Mariner Velasco, that voices her, has a very similar personality. She was interviewed on that, and she just, Anthony Carboni would just ask her a question and boom, she'd take off. She had full energy. So her character on Resistance really captures that.
Well, what I felt like too is that she's a lot like a lot of the students that I have at school. She just has that vibrancy to her. You could tell that even though she's an accomplished pilot, she's still a teenager, and she wants that personal adventure as well as just having fun.
Yeah, she was playing that simulator game that comes up a few times in this episode, which has been described on Starwars.com as a cross between Asteroids and Dance Dance Revolution.
I can see that.
And then it also has a space slug that comes out and eats the ships in the middle of the game. So that was a really interesting take. I hadn't ever really considered video games in the Star Wars universe before, other than things like Holo Chess or the Jarek table. But so that was an interesting take. And then she had that creature, that pet Buggles, which Star Wars.com also described as a as having been developed from a concept for the Phantom Menace. It was supposed to be a pet that belonged to high-ranking nobles on Naboo. So
interesting.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, if you don't check out you need to check out the episode guides on Resistance. They point out a lot of the Easter eggs, anyways, and have a lot of great information in those as well. But okay, so we'll move it along. So Torra's not pleased by the prospect of staying in her room, and she tricks and manipulates D4, which is kind of her guardian nanny droid. I'm not exactly sure how to describe, and an admin droid. So she can escape. Basically, she voice Buggles on her as Buggles needs to go to the bathroom, which creates a big mess. She probably runs into Kaz as they bump heads, who is trying to sneak into the high tower so he can spy on Captain Doza. Again, another little element from StarWars.com. There's an episode guide. 4D's full name is 4DM1N, which is leet speak for admin. So again, a nice little touch there, kind of like L337 is leet speak for leet. So,
right.
Carrying that little thing going forward. So so they head over to the marketplace. Not a whole lot going on there, except we get a chance to meet a couple of background characters to actually get some voices. Well, there's Garma, which is that blue alien that likes Kaz and invited him to stay in her home. And then we see
I didn't realize that was a female, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, her name is Garma.
I thought it was kind of like a Family Guy kind of homage at first, but I'm glad you cleared that up for me.
I don't think Star Wars is going that way.
Oh, okay,
but,
good.
But then we see the Thelan woman who's got that pink skin, and we've seen her. One of her species is basically a dancer or slave in Jabba's court a few times. Her name is Jux, and there's a Nautil in there, and his name is Namua. But some of the characters there, and kind of as you were alluding to, Jay, we kind of, and you too, Taxus, we kind of get a look at her life on the station, because when people realize that she's out there in the market, the vendor, she wanted to buy one of those stones, those glowing stones, and she asked what the price was. And the vendor said it was 5 credits, and then he realized it was her, and he said it was 20. And then as soon as it was known that Torra Doza was out, everyone started mugging her for information.
That was kind of an Aladdin moment for me too. Yeah, Princess Jasmine in the marketplace kind of thing. But wasn't that thing that she picked up? Wasn't there something in Rebels that was similar that Kallus had at one point?
Good eye. That was the stone that Kallus and Zeb.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of that episode, but that's kind of the episode where they realized that they had things in common, and it was like a matter of honor or something like that was the thing, and that was kind of the turning point for Kallus, after which, not too long after that, he became a rebel. He was a spy.
Yeah, that must be why that stuck with me, because I'm like, I feel like Kallus held something like that before.
Yeah, I think that episode was called Bromancing the Stone.
Good one.
Yeah.
So after that, Captain Pyre arrives with some stormtroopers from the First Order. They begin discussing some details of the First Order's proposals to secure the station.
Yeah.
Captain Pyre puts pressure on Doza to conclude the deal soon. I don't know about you guys, but this seemed very Empire Strikes Back to me, because Doza was asking, so you're going to put stormtroopers on my station. How long are they going to be here? There was no
Lando moment.
Yeah. This deal's getting worse all the time. And Vader,
right.
I could just hear Vader saying, it'd be unfortunate if I had to leave a garrison behind. But so and then I guess the other thing is that Captain Pyre arrived in the Upsilon class shuttle, which is the one that Kylo Ren uses. When I first saw that thing, I was like, oh my God, is Kylo showing up to this? Because I didn't realize that was a shuttle that was commonly used by officers in the First Order, because I thought we'd only seen Kylo use it before.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought about that too, Dennis.
So Torra and Kaz decide they're going to sneak back into the high tower to play Torra's Space Sims. There's a secret lounge. It's even more exclusive than the one that Kaz previously saw.
Wow.
And so it's Griff and Freya. And I think this is the first time that we hear Griff, who is the Imperial pilot-looking guy, voiced by Steve Sandler. I think this is the first time we've heard him talk. But just like everyone else in the market, they want to know what's going on with the First Order. And I don't know. I was kind of feeling bad for Torra at this point, because, she's the daughter of the guy that runs the station. What does she know? Why is she responsible for answering for her dad?
Right. But I feel like that's why she's later intrigued by who Kaz is. We're jumping ahead a little bit just to foreshadow because I don't know. I think she's got misgivings about this whole First Order thing too, you know, and she's getting a little nervous about it. But
so I thought it was kind of funny when Kaz saw the food sitting over there on the bar. And he wandered over and just started picking out. I guess it kind of says something about his character because he's not getting paid well by Yeager. And, you know, he can barely afford water whenever he goes to Auntie Z's at the cantina. So there's a plate of food and Tor's like, oh, just eat as much as you want. Not like she wanted any after he'd been taking his hands through it. And then we get the return of Jace Ruckland, which is that character voiced by Elijah Wood, who's now waiting tables in this lounge. And he tells Kaz he's doing it to raise money to buy a new speeder.
Yeah.
So we now have our third character in this show that has this history of debt and speeders and everything else. And, you know, I guess I don't want to call it a recycled plot point. I think it's more illustrative of the life of these speed racers, these ace pilots that fly in these races. But I guess he's got to make a living somehow. I just don't see how waiting tables in the lounge is ever going to get him enough money to buy a speeder.
You haven't seen the last of Chase Rutland.
That's true.
No, he's kind of got a vendetta going too now. He's got it out for Kaz because he blames him for saving his life, I guess. I don't know. It's I understand that, but you know, again, it feels kind of. I mean, you need that kind of conflict, right?
Sure. Well, it's such obviously misplaced anger because he's the one that stole the hyperfuel from Yeager's garage and used it in his. I mean, we saw how dangerous it was in Solo, and then he used it in his racer here, and then he didn't do it right, so the speeder was going to blow up, and Kaz saved his life. So it's very misplaced anger, but you know that's the way these things out. It's always easier to blame someone else from your problem than it is to blame yourself.
Yeah.
But
that's what I do.
Yeah. So Torra and Kaz are newly discovered as the First Order is leaving. They give Captain Doza, the First Order gives Captain Doza a data pad with details of the proposal, which he says he's going to review later, and he gives to one of the droids to put in his office. And it's at that moment Kaz decides that he's got to see what's there. Torra and Kaz get back to Torra's room and play the sim until D4 arrives. I don't know. This is not a game that I think I'd enjoy playing.
Yeah.
It really is an awkward cross between Asteroids and Dance Dance Revolution. You know, when the episode start. Yeah, well, when the episode started, you kind of got that look at Torra's back, and I thought she was just dancing, you know, instead of playing this game. But you got to hold your hands up in a weird way and kind of bob back and forth to steer your ship. And I don't know, maybe it's more fun than it looks, but at the moment, I wasn't particularly intrigued.
Yeah, I would definitely dig something like that. I love the Just Dance and Guitar Hero and all those kind of hands-on sorts of things. So
sure, but those games
I'd be
make
down
sense.
with that.
You know, it's one thing when you're actually just doing a dance. It's another thing when you're playing Guitar Hero. I've played that game before, and it's fun. But the combination, it's not like chocolate and peanut butter. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's two great tastes that go great together. At least from the looks of things. Yeah. But so they're playing the simulation until D4 arrives, and Torra shoves Kaz kind of into that alcove around her bed, and he hides himself behind a stuffed animal. God bless Kaz. He's so clueless about hiding. But anyways.
And by the way, droid sensors really suck.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying all those security droids kept walking by him and everything. They're looking around. It's like that's one thing about Star Wars. I mean, no matter how advanced they are, for some reason the droids just don't have very good sensors. I don't know what it is.
That's true. That is true. But
especially this one.
So D4 doesn't notice Kaz, but she notices BB-8. And wow, she went on like full on Terminator there.
Yeah.
You know, intruder alert, and it took Torra everything. It took everything Torra had in order to get to stand down. But once she does,
the safe words she knows.
Yeah, right. That's an order. But once D4 gets calmed down, you know, what was BB-8 doing? Because he like flails his arms around and he puts out his little lighter, and I don't know if he was trying to. Wasn't sure if he was actually making a rune gesture or what all that was.
Distract her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just being a big distraction.
But at one point, I thought he was going to go like burn something
right.
further distract her. But But Kaz sneaks out, BB-8 follows. He finally gets into Captain Doza's office. However, Jace spots him sneaking into the office and runs off to inform Captain Doza. And that interrupts Doza's meeting with Captain Pyre.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
As the First Order is leaving. So just as Kaz is finished downloading the details of the proposal, Jace and Doza return. Kaz is forced to finding a hiding spot in the closet. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but that little data pad, when Kaz was downloading the data, I translate Arabesh whenever I do a lot when I see it. It actually said downloading. So if you were said. But the big
always been horrible at Orabesh.
Well, I used to play the Old Republic MMO, and I would keep a printed up copy of the Orabesh alphabet near me, and I'd wander around finding like signs, or if you're in the spaceports, they had a lot of stuff written in Orabesh, and I'd just translate it. Well, if I was waiting on somebody or to do something, It was just kind of a fun way to get more into that galaxy. I can't do it quickly, but I can frequently. I know enough letters that I can infer what the rest of it is most of the time.
I kept trying to unlock rude gestures.
Okay. You and I played that game very differently, Texas. So Kaz dives into the closet where, big surprise and twist of the episode, he finds that Captain Doza has an Imperial officer's uniform in there. Rank of captain.
Skeletons in that closet.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a second. Kaz, just by circumstance, has believed that Captain Doza was in league with the First Order.
Right.
But he didn't really have anything to go on for that other than the First Order showed up. He didn't know what the contents of the negotiations were. He's just trying to put two and two together. And he's doing the best he can with what he has. But this whole twist of Doza being a former officer of the Empire, naturally, I would have thought that he would be tighter with the First Order. What did you guys think?
Well, first of all, what the insignia on the uniform that's a pretty high-ranking officer, right?
It was captain. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it Navy captain or Army?
Well, you would have to ask me that question. All I know is that StarWars.com said it was a rank of captain.
Okay, because I seem to remember like the Navy captain had like 4 on top and bottom. Can't remember exactly. Yeah,
well, it was 4 red and 4 blue.
Oh, I thought it was 3 and 3. Okay.
It doesn't matter. He was a captain.
Okay.
But anyways, so again, what did you think?
So are we basically trying to decide, was he part of the First Order or the Empire, obviously, at one point and decided to switch sides, or is he still kind of working for them? So
I think he's retired.
I'm with you, Texas. I don't think he's ever been a part of the First Order. I think the First Order is relatively new. I don't think he's ever been a member of the First Order. That is, it seems like a lot of officers in the First Order wear black, as opposed to the officers of the Empire, which wear that gray uniform. And so I got the impression that, before the fall of the Empire, at some point he held the rank of captain. And for whatever reason, he's holding on to that uniform. It would seem awfully compromising. But I'm just curious what that means for what he thinks. I mean, it kind of explains some things, that he's not integrated himself into the Republic, perhaps. Right. That now he's out on the edge of wild space or the unknown regions with with this station that he's taken control of, and he's a former captain of the Empire, and so now he's running this, so he doesn't necessarily have to integrate himself into the Republic. It might explain maybe why he hasn't called on the Republic for help and instead looking to the First Order for a potential deal. But he's never been super eager about making a deal with the First Order either.
Yeah, and if anything, I mean, he's kind of one of those guys that the First Order was prepared to burn, when they took off and did their thing, because they basically
That's a good point.
Took everybody that they thought was worth the darn and ran off to hidden space or whatever, and left all the others. I mean, it was basically just, hey guys, good job, stay here and keep on fighting. We'll see you later. Okay.
Yeah, what was the name of it? Was it Operation Cinder?
Yeah.
That they ran. That was both in the Battlefront 2 game. It was in the Shattered Empire comic, and it was in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy, where essentially it was Palpatine's plan that if you failed the Emperor, you didn't deserve to live. And so,
right.
He basically equated himself to the king on a chessboard, and if the king falls, everybody falls. And so he's wiping everything out with this idea that the First Order, some remnants would be the First Order, they'd go out elsewhere and rebuild and come back and take over the galaxy at some point. Perhaps, this conversation is making me wonder if the First Order has any idea that Doza was in the Empire.
Good point.
And if they did, what would they do? Would that change anything?
Yeah, it's a good question. They seem to have pretty extensive records, if I remember correctly. I mean,
yeah, I would think so, but would you necessarily think to look up at this guy that's running the station if he was part of the Empire?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, Doza's got some sort of connections to the New Republic because, later it's revealed, or at least his daughter after their fun.
That's true.
Yeah, she says he's figured out that you used to be a naval pilot.
So he had some way of checking that out.
Yeah. So, maybe he's not all... Maybe that's the thing. Maybe he's... I don't know. Maybe it's sort of like... who's the character in Chuck Wendig novel? The...
Senjur?
Senjur. That's right. Maybe it's sort of like that.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to find out. But it's kind of a dangling plot thread. Our dose of intrigue for the episode. So Kaz manages to get out of there when Jace is trying to sneak in to get into the closet because they've, I know he's in here, and then Doza doesn't want to go into the closet. He says that's private, obviously. So apparently this uniform is a bigger deal than anyone thinks.
Right.
And so he tells Jace to make himself useful, take out my trash. It's like, ooh, that's harsh. Yeah. But so they leave, and then Kaz sneaks out and he runs into Torra again. And she wants to know what he is up to and what he's doing. And he agrees to tell her, but they have to get out of the high tower first. And she says she knows a secret way. And they end up in the trash incinerator. Mm-hmm. So she said at first this was the trash compactor. Oh no, she asked, is this a trash compactor? And she's like, no, this is a trash incinerator, but don't worry, it only runs on a particular day. And she just had her days of the week wrong, and it was that day. So they
see, I thought it was kind of more of like a 7 seconds of heaven thing at first,
she made clear to him in an earlier episode that she didn't feel that way about him. So
I'll say it first.
Okay.
Lady Taxus said.
But she decides it's kind of like a sim game, and they boogie their way out while BB-8 opens a door and they escape. And then Kaz kind of disappointed me here because Torra flat out asks him, are you a spy? And as you were saying earlier, Taxus, she confronts him with the fact that Doza figured out that he used to be in the Republic Navy.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, me, a spy? That's crazy. I retired from the Navy to become a racer. While plausible, I just have this feeling that there is going to be this revelation at some point in this series, maybe the second half of this season. And we're going to have a couple episodes with Kaz dealing with the fallout of his secrecy and not confiding in people.
But think about his situation, right? This is the daughter of a man that you're suspecting of working with the First Order, Right. How do you know what you tell her? Yeah, okay, look. On the down low, I am a spy. Cannot tell your dad. Sure. You know what I mean? He doesn't know. And although, they're setting her up to be, of course, a hero, right?
Right.
And I feel like she wouldn't do something like that. From his point of view, he doesn't know. And in fact, I gotta say that this episode is the first time that I feel like I'm really seeing Kaz the spy, He did a good job of trying to figure out how to get into places. He was sneaking around a lot better, kind of using situational kind of awareness to get the job done. I don't know. He's still pretty bad at lying because she saw right through him. But
yeah, he's a terrible liar. What did you think, Jay?
Well, I thought that, he did a good job overall. I still feel like he's still bumbling quite a bit, yeah, I mean, overall, I think that he's starting to develop as a spy, but I am a little disappointed. And I think you're absolutely right that there is going to be some huge fallout at some point. And I think that's going to be just part of the way that the series is going to progress. And it's just going to be part of his growth as a character, it's just bound to happen.
Yeah. I really think that between Tam, Nico, and now Torra, he's going to have 3 people really upset with him when it comes out that he's a spy. Because, Tam is questioning him time and again as to who he is and what he's doing. And, she doesn't have any ties to Doza or anything else going on the station. I can understand not telling Nico to a degree because he has a hard time not repeating anything he hears. Right. Hey, First Order, my friend Kaz wants to know what you're doing here, as an example. So, anyway.
On a side note, too, during that whole scene where they're in the incinerator, graphics, the animation was great. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, and that reminds me, in that scene when Torra and Kaz are in the hallway and they come around the corner and see the First Order there or whatever. Yeah. And they duck back behind the walls. Did you see what Torra did?
Yeah, she did the hand.
She did a little handstand flip thing. I was just
what do you call that, Jay?
A cartwheel?
A cartwheel, yes. in the vernacular. Okay. Because you live near Midianites. It was a little
more than a cartwheel, though. It was more of like a one-handed flip almost.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a handspring or what that was. But, but it's just like that was different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noticed that too, Dennis. I thought that was kind of cool. And it was super fast, too. Yeah. Very spy-like.
Ooh,
yeah.
All right.
She's the acrobat.
Basically coming up on the end of the episode, and Kaz leaves and Torra goes back to her room and she's got Buggles again, and then the episode concludes with her saying, okay, Kaz, who are you? Who are you really? So, she didn't buy any of his story again. That's the thing. As much as Kaz is becoming a good spy, as you said, he's a terrible liar, and the cover he invents for himself is plausible if he only could sell it better.
Yeah. Right.
But he just can't. I mean, it sounds like he is so making it up on the fly. He overreacts when he's asked about anything. It's like, me, a spy? Oh, that's crazy. Don't be ridiculous. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And, it's like, well, you just gave yourself away right there.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of covered this episode, so let's go around the table and give our final thoughts and a final grade. Jay, you have the floor.
All right. Well, I had a couple of aha moments in this one. Well, I think that at some point, Doza may have had his own little Zeb revelation moment, kind of like Callus did, where perhaps maybe that's why he decided to go with the Resistance and the New Republic as opposed to staying on the opposite side of things. I did like how we got a chance to really get it a little bit more into Torra's character. I still don't think that the depth of her character is being fully explored, but at least we got to know her a little bit more. And like you said, we got exposed to her more in this episode than we did in any other one. I've decided that Aunt Z reminds me of Mrs. Doubtfire. That's kind of a random thought that goes into this, but
yeah, I see
but it was like I just had this like aha moment for one crazy reason. Yeah, I mean it was a fun episode overall, and I think that it serves more than anything else just to plant that seed of the skeletons in the closet, and where is that going to go from here? And because obviously Captain Doza, why did he even have his uniform there? Mm-hmm. And of course it serves as a plot point, and this is a cartoon series. It's animated series, excuse me.
Thank you.
I know, but yeah, so it's just one of those things that I think we're gonna hear a lot more of. I'll give this one maybe a B-. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more, I don't know, solidity, I guess, to the story overall, but I think that it served its point.
Okay. Yeah, so as far as the uniform thing, I'm just going to say it's not necessarily illegal to have an Imperial uniform. Maybe, I mean, we don't know his motivations for keeping it or hiding the fact that he has it or what. Unless it does kind of shed some light to people starting to think that he's prepared to sell out the First Order or whatever. So, as far as this episode goes, I liked the more spy-like aspects of it. Has, again, a little more development with the characters. I liked the Torra, a lot of the Torra. I thought she's a fun character. A little more depth. I mean, you see she's kind of lonely, but she gets excited because Kaz is kind of that wild and crazy guy that's, she doesn't know his motivations for being wild and crazy, but she's like, finally, somebody's like, wanting to kind of break out, instead of just hanging around the pilot's lounge. Even though that's what he would really like to do. Animation was great. Thought that the dog reminded me of a pug. It's kind of cool. But dog? Is that a dog? Can we call it a space dog? Space dog.
It was something like a Vorhi or something like that. Is what the original Phantom Menace creation was called.
Sure. So, all in all, it's a not a filler. I hate not saying filler. It's a developmental episode, so I'm just gonna give it a B. It was an entertaining, but nothing really huge except for the revelation of the uniform.
All right. Well, I like everything you guys just said. The situation with the uniform kind of reminded me of Claudia Gray's Bloodline with the Imperial memorabilia that certain people were collecting. And the what was the senator's name that Leia on the other side that Leia was working with? I can't remember his name, but he had a huge collection, and there was a certain, but there was a big set, a lot of people that kind of found this interest in this Imperial memorabilia to be offensive. And I hesitate to use this as an analogy, but it would be kind of like people collecting Nazi stuff today. These people who committed, this empire that committed so many atrocities, and now everyone's obsessed with their stuff.
Right.
And even similar arguments like, well, they had some great policies. If they had different leadership, it would have been fantastic. Well, wow. Whatever the case. But that's not my argument. I'm just reciting what came out of the book. But I feel like this episode was really designed to get us to that plot point, that twist. Along the way, Doza evaluating a proposal from the First Order is not new to this episode. Not really much happened to further that storyline other than the fact that the proposal was delivered. Why it had to be done in person versus just sending it to him over video, it's convenient for the plot, but I don't understand why that had to be something that the First Order had to show up and deliver in person other than to move us towards the reveal in this episode. I like Torra overall. I liked her a lot better. I mean, the only other episode we really got a lot of her. Well, that's not true. There's 2 episodes we got more of her in. The premiere was when we got introduced to her, and I wasn't terribly fond of her then because she just reminded me of a quirky character that was a little too anime for my taste, but she had much more of a personality that I could understand in this episode, and so I grew to like her a lot more. But it just at the end of the day, this is not an episode that I'm not necessarily going to want to go back and watch again. And for that reason, I think I'm just going to give it a B-. I think it was well done overall. I thought the scene in the incinerator was kind of interjected just to give us some action in this episode. While it was cool, that in itself, it didn't. I don't know again that it was really necessary to the story overall. And it's cool, so it can be in there. But there was a lot of things, I think, in this episode that were designed to fill. Well, I wouldn't call it a fluff episode, just as you were suggesting, Taxus. It's not fluff, it was a developmental episode. Yeah. There was a lot of things in this episode that were there to fill out the 22 minutes. And so, anyways.
Plus, it taught me a valuable lesson. I mean, as far as the incinerator goes, is there anything that lasers cannot do?
Apparently hit Kaz and Torra. But anyways. That's going to do it for our discussion of Secrets and Holograms. Before we go, what do you guys have going on that the Scoundrels could look forward to this week?
Well, for me, I was actually recently on an episode of Coffee with Kenobi where we were discussing our top 5 things that we love about Rogue One. So you can go back and check that one out. As always, my blogs are there on Coffee with Kenobi and my Core Worlds Couture fashion reviews. And you can always find me right here with the Scoundrels.
Yeah, in the next Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Jeff McGee, and Regina Davis, we're going to have Mark Bellamo actually standing in for Mr. McGee. So, he wrote a recent G.I. Joe book, and it's wildly popular, so we're going to have a lot of G.I. Joe fun with that, so tune in.
And as for me, you can find my comic reviews on retrozap.com, and each month I'm talking Star Wars comics with Joel J. Shepard on Jedi Journals. If you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook at facebook.com/SQPod. You can email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. Jay is at Joyce Krebs, and I am at DJKVER2. Speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. The network currently features more than a dozen shows covering everything from retro gaming and movies to the Animaniacs, collecting, Doom, Game of Thrones, and of course, a ton of Star Wars. Subscribe to the network feed and get all the shows in one place. That's going to do it for this Scoundrels Special Edition. We'll talk to you all soon with another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.